On March 26, 2026, in the city of Barcelona, a decision will be made. Not a crime, not an accident, not a sudden tragedy, but a choice. A legal, final, irreversible choice. At just 25 years old, Noelia Castillo Ramos is preparing to end her life, not out of impulse, but through the law itself. Her story has crossed borders, shaken courts, divided families, and forced the world to confront a question it has long avoided. Who has the right to decide when life should end? Before hospitals, before courts, before pain defined her existence, there was a child. Noelia was born into a family that struggled to hold itself together. Her parents battled psychological instability and addiction. Her early years were not entirely dark, but they were unstable. Much of her childhood was spent in reform and care institutions, places designed to protect, but often unable to replace what was missing. Yet, there was one place where the world felt different. Her grandmother's house, a refuge, a sanctuary from chaos. Noelia would later recall, "I remember those days as the happiest. We would spend time together, sell handmade things at fairs, and sit on the rooftop in the evenings." These memories, simple, fragile, became her treasure. In her final days, she chose 4 photographs from that time, small pieces of a life that once felt whole. But childhood does not last forever. And for Noelia, adolescence brought a turning point. Her family lost their home due to foreclosure. What little stability remained disappeared. She and her sister were forced to live with their father, under shared custody. Their nights were often spent waiting outside bars, while their father drank inside. Hours passed in silence, in uncertainty, in neglect. Noelia would later say, "That was when everything started to fall apart." At just 13 years old, Noelia entered psychiatric care. What began as emotional distress soon revealed deeper struggles. She was diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder, a condition that traps the mind in relentless loops, and borderline personality disorder, a condition that fractures identity, emotion, and stability. But the pain did not stop there. She became the victim of 2 sexual assaults, one by someone she knew, the second, in 2022, inside a care institution, a group assault she never reported. Some traumas are not spoken about, not because they are forgotten, but because they are too heavy to carry into words. Noelia later described her life as failures, darkness, and emptiness. On October 4, 2022, at the age of 21, Noelia reached a breaking point. The pain, mental, emotional, and invisible to the world, became unbearable. She jumped from the 5th floor. She survived, but survival did not mean recovery. The fall left her with irreversible spinal damage. Years later, in 2024, she was diagnosed with paraplegia. From the waist down, she was completely paralyzed. But paralysis was not the only burden. There was pain, constant, relentless, unforgiving pain, loss of sensation, loss of independence, loss of control. Every day of life became something she could not manage alone. Narrator: the body had survived, but the life she knew had not. During her recovery, doctors began to notice something. Noelia was consistent, clear, unwavering. She expressed, repeatedly, her desire to die, not in desperation, not in confusion, but with clarity. "I don't want to keep living like this." On April 10, 2024, Noelia made a formal request. She applied for euthanasia. Under Spain's organic law March 2021, adults are legally allowed to request assisted death if they suffer from an incurable condition or unbearable suffering, and if they can give informed consent. Her case was submitted to the Catalonia court, but the story did not end there. It had only begun. Noelia's father opposed her decision. He argued that her mental condition made her incapable of making such a choice. The organization Abogados Cristianos supported the appeal. What followed was a legal battle that lasted over 2 years. The case moved through multiple levels of the judicial system. each step delaying the inevitable. The courts examined the case carefully. Psychological evaluations, medical records, legal standards. In Catalonia, the initial ruling supported Noelia's decision. Her autonomy, her awareness, her suffering were all acknowledged. The case moved higher, to Spain's Supreme Court, then to the Constitutional Court. Both rejected her father's appeals. The courts affirmed one principle. Her life was hers to decide. But the legal fight did not end there. The case reached the European Court of Human Rights. One final attempt to stop the procedure. One final question. Should the state intervene to preserve life, even against the will of the person living it? The answer came. The appeal was rejected. All legal barriers were removed. While the courts reached clarity, the family did not. Noelia's father, after losing the legal battle, cut off contact. No visits, no communication, only silence. Her mother, Yolanda Ramos, chose a different path. She chose to stay, to support her daughter's decision, to remain, until the very end. Noelia said, "I have been clear from the beginning. I just want to go peacefully. I don't want to suffer anymore." Noelia's story spread far beyond Spain, across Europe, across the world. It reignited a debate that has no easy answers. Euthanasia, dignity, autonomy, suffering. Some see it as a victory, a recognition of human dignity, the right to choose how one's life ends. Others see danger, moral boundaries, religious concerns, the fear of normalizing death as a solution. There is no universal agreement, only questions, and a growing number of stories like hers. Today, Thursday, March 26, 2026, the day has arrived. In a hospital room in Barcelona, Noelia Castillo Ramos will take her final step, not by accident, not by force, but by choice. Visual, close-up of her face. There are no crowds, no headlines inside that room, only a mother, a daughter, and a moment that cannot be undone. This is not just a story about death. It is a story about pain, about survival, about the limits of the human spirit, and about a question that has no simple answer. When suffering becomes unbearable, is choosing to die a defeat, or is it a final act of control? And in the end, the world is left asking, is dignity found in holding on, or in letting go?